Witness me. Shiny and chrome. All right, bro. Here we go.
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Nightcap.
V8. Welcome back, guys.
Cheers, man. How's it going tonight?
Can't complain. You know, another night, another review.
Taking it easy tonight. I'm just drinking some coffee tonight. Feeling very mature.
All right. Well, I got back to my Viking beer so I could be anointed and shiny and chrome while I walk into Valhalla.
Exactly. Need someone to witness you. You want to be called mediocre when you pass through those gates.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We need someone to witness this episode. So let's make it a good one.
All right, well, let's get into this movie here, Mad Max Fury Road. But before we hop into the synopsis, you guys, this is your first time watching the Nightcap, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. That helps us out. This is solid with the algorithm. We appreciate it. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and put up the grading right now. It gives our grading breakdown, how we grade our movies. And also, you can always find those in the notes, too, on any of our videos, so you can follow along. And then also, feel free to leave any feedback in the comments below in terms of like your guys' thoughts on the movie. And also warning, all of the Nightcap reviews are spoiler heavy. So if you haven't seen these movies and you don't want to be, you don't want to spoil it before you get to a chance to watch it, go ahead and pause us, watch the movie, come back and watch it later, because we will get into the details of the movie. But without further ado, I'm anxious to get into this review. This is actually one of my favorite movies. So I'll go ahead and break into the synopsis and then we'll get into the film. All right. So Mad Max Fury Road is a 2015 Australian post-apocalyptic action film, co-written and co-produced and directed by George Miller. The film stars Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron. The film is set in a post-apocalyptic desert wasteland where petrol and water are scarce commodities, also known as Australia, where it follows Max Rockatansky, who joins forces with Imperator Furiosa, who flee from the cult leader Immortan Joe and his army in an armored tanker truck leading through a lengthy road battle. Let's see here. So the film had a budget of $185 million and a box office of $375 million. Yeah, it came out in 2015. I do remember seeing this in the theater when it came out. I was pretty excited about it. I'm a fan of the original movies. Not all of them were all that great, but they had cool aspects to them. Going back and even watching them now, there's definitely some cool like cinematography tricks and things that they did. And they were ahead of their time, just kind of delving. It was one of the first movies that really came out with that whole like post-apocalyptic idea, like in the 70s and the 80s. I was curious to see when they did, this, it's not a reboot, but that they continued the series here, what it was going to look like. And yeah, I wasn't disappointed. Very shiny and chrome.
I was definitely not disappointed at myself. And much like you, I also watched this, I believe opening weekend too, because I was pumped. All the commercials got me pumped. And right after I got out of the theater, tearing ass in my car. And by the way, it was a V8. Gotta mention that.
V8. You're like, and by the way, Steve was strapped to the hood.
He's my blood bag.
Like Silence of the Lambs.
And Hannibal Lecter strapped to his front of his hood.
Well, I know I was stoked. I mean, I know you're a big Tom Hardy fan too. Just about Tom Hardy picking this role, picking up where, I mean, he had big shoes to fill. I mean, Mel Gibson, obviously, and then Charlize Theron as well. Right away I was intrigued just by the names that got tied to it. And I was curious to see what George Miller was going to do. I mean, it had been such a long time since the other movies. Was he going to be able to actually pull it off? And I can say, I mean, I think he did. But let's talk about the plot of this movie. And this is actually one of my lower categories in terms of the movie itself, because it's a fairly simple plot. And even the character Max is really kind of just a shell of the character from the previous movies. He's almost... I mean, don't get me wrong. He's got the clothes. He's got the look. He's got the car, even though we barely see it. But as far as like the character himself, all the emotional attachment, everything was kind of missing. We kind of don't know where he's been up to or what he's been doing. Apparently, he's been reduced to a single instinct: survive. But that's pretty much all we get. And then obviously we catch up with Furiosa. She's trying to get away from Immortan Joe and still his precious breeders.
Splendid.
And when they go on this lengthy car chase, and then that's pretty much it. And now there's enough there, don't get me wrong, to keep my attention the whole time, but a lot of twists and turns. Literally, they go down one road and then they come right back.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it's and what did you end up giving the plot?
I give it a 5.
Okay, well, I'm not too far from you. I gave it a 6 just because kind of the notes that you were hitting. It's a very simple plot. It's an escape movie set in a post-apocalyptic world. It's just the execution was done
Yeah.
very well. So, but I couldn't give it more than a 6 just because it was of the simplicity of the plot.
Yeah, yeah, it really was. I mean, there's not really much character arc. The plot itself is pretty simple. Now, granted, the meat and potatoes of Mad Max is just that
Yeah.
road chases and just crazy, spectacle and driving in this kind of creepy, Half Life world that they're living in. So they cut right to the, no pun
The
intended, cut
chase.
right to the chase. Um, but and they give us what we're looking for. But at the same time, too, it would have been cool if they had a little bit more of a story, or even I even put in my notes like it would have been nice if they would have just came back a different direction at least, like come in the back way, you know what I mean, or
No, they
something.
had to no straight through the middle, man.
Right
All
back.
right, because
But at the same time, it was just it was the way the story was shot, the way it was done was executed well. So I can't really knock it too much, but it is what it is. But let's get to actually my highest grade is in the production, but I'll let you go
yes,
ahead and kick it off on that.
the production. I was so close to giving this a perfect score. I gave it a 19 out of 20 just
Okay.
because one, it looked great. All the stunts, all the crazy wardrobes, the makeup, the cars. The cars was pretty much the main thing that set the production.
Yeah.
'Cause I haven't seen this movie since I watched it in the theater, and I just kind of remembered how batshit crazy this movie was. And and I do like that it had like a minimal use of CGI, which I
Right.
appreciate considering Hollywood's so CGI driven now, pun intended also. And so this pretty much looked like a demolition derby but with Circus Soleil, with like all the
Yeah.
pole people. And it's funny because fun note, they actually use a Circus Soleil performer to train some of the stunt people for
Oh, really?
for like the pole people.
Yeah, that's cool. The polecats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and like you touched on too, that they definitely did a lot of live action stunts, and it
Hmm.
paid off. You could tell the difference. And I mean, we've done
Absolutely.
a couple of Christopher Nolan movies, and again too, he's a guy that likes to do live action stunts. And even as a viewer, as good as CG is, and it's come a long way, it's still you can still tell, and it makes a big difference. And in this
Yeah.
movie, you can really see the difference. But the way that they shot it, just the frenetic nature of the cinematography and like the zooms
Chaotic.
in. Yeah, it just feels so chaotic.
Yeah.
The big vibrant colors, that they did too. The sound, and I think it actually won a Academy Award for Best Editing. And I was thinking, honestly, that's a legit.
Nice.
I mean, there's so many cuts, the fight scenes, the way it's choreographed. You know what? Give it a perfect score. Give it a 20.
Hmm.
There was really nothing I could say
There
that
you
they did
go.
anything. Yeah, anything else in the costumes and the makeup. And here's one to the villains too. I mean, because they looked creepy as heck. I mean, when you're getting chased by Morton Joe, like man, I'm rooting for you. I'm like, get out of there. I don't know what that guy's gonna do. I don't want to know.
Yeah. And Morton Joe, another fun fact for you, that was actually Toe Cutter from the original Mad Max also.
Oh, cool. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, so that's cool that he brought him back too. Yeah, that same actor, right?
Yeah, it's the same
To
actor.
play
Not
to play
he's
Joe.
not Toe Cutter
Yeah,
himself, but
he's
it's the
not
same
playing
actor.
the toe
Yeah.
cutter again, but yeah, in the world there too. And then I wasn't sure if they were just saying it or not, but is a Morton Joe and then like what was it the Gasoline Town or Guzzling Town and then the guys I think he calls
Were they
them
all
brother.
brothers?
Yeah,
Yeah, it
were they
seemed like
really
they were all
supposed to be brothers?
brothers.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that
seemed
was
like it,
interesting.
like from Bullet Farm and the gas town. Yeah, it seemed like because they were calling each other brothers and all that. So
If there's one thing I can say against it, even though I did give it a perfect score, is man, I really wish there was more of the original car of Mad Max's car. I mean, he
yeah,
doesn't. He drives it for an instant, and then they immediately, total it, and then he survives, obviously, and then you see it again in the car chase, and then they total it again. And just as an
yeah,
old school fan, I was kind of like, man, it's such a cool car. The Interceptor. It would have been cool to have a little bit more of it in the movie, but actually, as we transition to acting, Mad Max is like a secondary character in this movie.
yeah. He's definitely not the main protagonist. It's Furiosa.
Yeah,
But both of them in acting, Theron and Hardy, they pretty much they're the bulk of the movie.
yeah,
Everyone else is secondary characters. However, one of my favorite performances was Nicholas Holt, Nux. I really
yeah.
enjoyed his performance in this movie.
Totally
It
agree.
definitely held up on against these two heavy hitters.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I thought he did a good job, and he was a cool like sidekick guy, and he kind of brought some levity to it because he was so clueless at times of like what was
Yeah,
really going on. I remember when
yeah. Well,
when they get the breeders back supposedly, and he's like, "Oh man, we're," he's like, "Blood bank, we're gonna be set. You can get whatever you want." And he's like giving him his stuff back. He's like, "He's my jacket, give me my jacket." He's like, "You can have more than your jacket." It's just like totally oblivious that like the
Yeah,
plan wasn't to go back to Joe. But yeah, no, I
because
thought
all
he's
he's
a good
pretty much
character.
just a brainwashed. He's a common crazy war boy. That's all.
Yeah,
That's his the foot soldiers for Immortan Joe's. So they just listen to what he says. He's pretty much a god to them. So I liked his little, not much of a story arc, but like him noticing like, okay, well, he's actually wrong. So he starts thinking for himself. So I kind of like that.
yeah, a lot of the characters in here too. I mean, even the the girls that the rescues and stuff like that too, even in their small roles, I thought they did fine. They did well. None of
Yeah.
them were like awkward or anything. And to me, a villain's a big part of any movie. It has to be like a worthy villain, to really like give that tension and the suspension
Hmm.
when you're from the chase. If you don't feel like the hero's in any danger, then you don't really, at least for me, like it's just, it's just not there. And for this movie, yeah, I mean, these characters were just like, they were just so intense. I don't know the names, I forget the names of the other guys, but they were just with the costumes that they gave them and
Yeah.
everything.
Rictus was his other son. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like out of bounds. And then yeah, his other son too, Rictus. And then the other
Yeah.
son, I forget, was like Colossus or something like that, like these crazy names. I had a baby brother and he was perfect
Just
in every
in
way.
every way. Like he was a man child. He was a man child.
He really was, yeah. But this whole world that they created is just so, it's just incredible. Actually, it's really interesting. It's a character in itself, and you just want more of that world. I would say as a fan, you know what I mean. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, in terms of acting wise, score. Let me see what I gave it. Yeah, so for acting, I gave it a 25. So yeah,
Oh,
I thought they did a pretty good job. I thought they did a pretty. I mean, Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron are good actors. Like I said,
yeah.
there's not a lot here, and I will say a little bit. Tom Hardy's Mad Max, like I said, he's very thin resemblance to the actual original character, just because we're so
No.
far removed from the original story at this point. But in the moments that they had together, and even towards the end, you know what? It was pretty dramatic, and you were definitely rooting for him. You know what I mean? And they kind of formed this like bond at the end too, and you can kind of believe it in this world. Even though you were telling me right that I guess off the screen they were having problems.
Yeah, like some of the stuff I read was that they really weren't, they don't really like each other like during the movie. I don't know if it was just a harsh the setting of like having to film in the desert in Namibia for like a few months. I don't know if that's like anyone would get on your nerves, and if you're like in the 120-degree heat like in the middle of a desert. So
Yeah.
maybe that was part of the case. And but I gave the acting 25 out of 30 also, by the way.
Okay, yeah. So we're right
Yeah.
there the same. Let's get into directing here. So George Miller, I don't know a ton about George Miller. I know he did Happy Feet, which is kind
Yeah,
of
he
a
did Happy
non
Feet.
sequitur and in terms of the movies we're talking about here. But props to him for reviving the franchise, and then
Yeah.
not just like meeting expectation, exceeding it. At least is what I would say he did
Yeah.
when he brought this back. Now, it's not a perfect film, like we talked about, especially with the plot. It's very simple. I wish there was more Max. That's the biggest thing too. Kind of threw me for a loop is that it's really a Furiosa movie.
Hmm.
Um, but overall, the movie itself is enthralling, and the car chases and everything. I mean, it takes you for a ride, pun intended. And yeah, it keeps you your attention the whole time. And but it has a nice ebb and flow too. There's like those surreal moments too when they're going through like the desert at nighttime, right? Where they're going through the that swamp like land, and it just
The
feels like very
green.
like fantasy like. You know what I mean? It's just the whole, like I
Yeah.
said, this whole post-apocalyptic world that he created is just so interesting, and so you want to see more of it. So I'm really hoping that they do a sequel and we get to revisit it. But yeah, props to him. But overall, I just gave it a 26. I thought he did a good job. Like I said, I just wish there was a little bit more there, a little more complexity in the plot.
Oh man, I don't know if you took my notes or anything, but I gave it a 26 also.
Jesus, all right, here we go.
But I just gave it to him because the tenacity of him being able to make this movie. This movie was in development hell for 15 plus years.
Yep.
This had so many stop and goes. It was supposed to, it was written like in 96, started filming 2001, had to stop filming because of 9/11. Then it got rebooted again, rewritten. Then he scouted the area for Namibia, but for whatever reason, the US kind of forbade him from filming there. So it had to be stopped again. Then finally, principal photography and all that in 2012, 2013. Then finally released 2015.
Hmm.
So that's, you gotta admire the guy for going through all that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a high octane movie, pun intended. Lots of puns in this
A
movie.
lot of puns,
Like
yeah.
lots of puns in this episode.
This is a heavy pun podcast right now.
But yeah, I gave it 26 out of 30. It moved well. it was like I said, it gets your adrenaline pumping, and he did a good job. Especially we hit on all the production. It kind of goes with directing of all
Dare
the
we
stuff.
say hitting on all cylinders? Let's keep this punch show
Ooh,
going.
let's keep this punt train going.
All right.
Jesus.
Or yeah, no, I mean, I thought he did a really good job. Like I said, it's interesting that I can't really think, and I don't know, maybe I'm naive that maybe he has other action movies, but it's funny that he would just do this franchise and he does it and does it so well, and
Yeah.
then he hasn't done anything else, which is a little interesting. But let's transition to X Factor, and also too, this is kind of part of the X Factor, at least for me, is there is rumors that they're gonna continue to do another movie, another actually they're looking at doing a prequel, which is kind of disappointing, honestly, for me, going more into Furiosa's character, which
Right.
granted she's interesting, but I'm never really a fan of prequels in general because we already know the kind of
Yeah.
the fate of the character, and also too, it's to me it's still Mad Max's world, so to speak, his universe, and I
Yeah,
kind of want to
absolutely. It is.
see more about Max's character, and from what I can at least read in the news about the new movie, it doesn't sound like he's even a part of it, and it doesn't even sound like Charlize Theron's going to be a part of it, which is kind of odd because she's such an
Mm.
excellent actress. You would kind of not use her there, but overall, though, I'm still stoked about this franchise, and yeah, I give it an 8. Whatever they end up putting out, I probably will still check it out. But George Miller, if you're watching this, give us more Mad Max. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also gonna say that to stop looking at my notes again because I gave it an 8 also for X Factor because
Jeez.
for B8. All right.
All right, there you go. Yeah, it's like I'm talking
But
to a mirror
also,
right now.
yeah, it definitely gets you. Like I said, it got me pumped when I got out of the theater. I was legit tearing ass in my car, so it got me there. But I couldn't give it a perfect 10 out of 10, which I usually give movies that I like for X
Yeah, that's
Factor
true.
because remind me what this movie's called again. What's the name of this movie?
Mad Max, Fury Road.
Okay, and we touched upon this many times in this episode. There's no Mad Max. There's not a lot of Mad Max
Very little.
in
Yeah,
this movie.
yeah.
And I get it. I get it. This was more of a vehicle for Furiosa.
Ooh, I see
Keep
what
the
you
fun
did
thing
there.
going.
Keep him coming.
But
Keep him coming. We're almost done.
keep it coming, guys. But it's Mad Max Fury Road. Give us Mad Max. That's the
Yes.
iconic character.
Yeah.
So that's my only gripe about this movie. More Mad Max. It's called Mad Max Fury Road, not Furiosa. Fury Road.
Yeah.
All right.
Mad Furiosa. All right. Correct the name right now. But yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And it's a little disappointing. And especially too when you get an actor like Tom Hardy. And in this movie, he doesn't really say
Yeah,
a lot too,
absolutely.
right? He's really kind of like all just like haunted by the past. They kind of like flirt with the
Catch
idea
bait.
of redemption, but they don't really tell you exactly from what. Even like with Furiosa too, like I mean, they both are looking to try to find redemption, but they don't really indulge us in that and give us a little bit more on that. Like what's exactly haunting them. I mean, we get obviously the situations they're in, so we can kind of read between the lines, but yeah, I don't know. For me, like I said, I really wish, or maybe even like if there was like a director's cut or an extended cut that showed like
Mm,
more of the opening sequence, right when we see Max on that hill and he's
right.
being chased by these guys, maybe we could see a little bit more of that. Give us a little more Mad Max. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty cool, but it is what it is, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I mean, I know it's still in production, so
Oh.
things might change. I don't know.
If it was
Hopefully,
anything like getting this movie made, we'll see it in 2035,
I know, right?
something
Yeah.
like that.
But I'll give Miller the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what he comes up with. Maybe he'll surprise us again, and we'll be
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised. But to everybody watching, yeah, let us know what your thoughts in the comments. What you guys think of this movie? What do you guys
Any
think?
more
Are we
puns
yeah?
that you
If you
think
have
you'd
any
like
more
to add to
puns,
it?
go ahead and leave those as well. But I was gonna say, what do you guys think? I mean, are we wrong here that this needed more Mad Max? I mean, that seems fairly obvious to me, but I don't know. Maybe for some people, it was enough story as it is. And what do you guys think about the this prequel that they're working on about Furiosa? Are you excited about that? Are you a little bit like we are, a little disappointed in that? Any feedback? Just go ahead and leave it below. And also, too, in terms of your guys' grading, what would you guys give the movie as well? Overall grade, I ended up giving it an 84. Would you end up giving it? Did we match that too?
God damn it. Stop looking at my notes. I gave it an 84 also.
Wow, there you go. There's not a lot of complexity on this one. Right? Just much like this movie, it's just very linear, just simpatico all the way here.
Go back to the Citadel. Back the same way we
What's the
came.
thing, bro? Just do me a favor. Witness me. All right?
Witness me. Until next night, witness me. And I'll see you guys in Valhalla.